Well, some of the other things you have on your list of gut healing foods too. Do you want to go into that? Some
Oh
of
yeah, like food medicine.
Yeah.
So that's great. So we've talked about some herbs, some clay, ion, which is very, unique and specific. But I love, and my kind of slogan for years has been to people, my prescription list. I mean, unless, they're suffering a lot of symptoms, but in general, my prescription list starts with food, food medicine. And so one of my favorite healing foods is bone broth.
Right.
And bone broth is, I love to call it a healing potion, honestly. There's so many things that bone broth supports in health and healing, and it's on the top of the list of gut healing foods. Right. The collagen, the gelatin, the proline, the glycine, these things in bone broth are known to help seal the gut. So again, like I said, there's other things besides ion that help to seal the gut, and bone broth is one of those in a healing food form. Bone broth is also known to be phenomenal for joints.
Yes.
One of Dr. Varco's specialties over here in PT and rehab and joint health is that bone broth is fabulous for that. And I'll just take a quick side note to say, when people ask me personally, what are your 2 favorite joint supplements? I'm like, bone broth and omega-3s.
Yes.
Those 2 things literally set the foundation, because bone broth is not only good for bones, it's good for joint structures, tendons, ligaments, soft tissue, muscle. There's studies that have shown bone broth helps to negate muscle atrophy. Like, it's phenomenal what bone broth can do. Yeah. And it's very bioavailable. So it absorbs really well. So anyway, phenomenal gut healing food. Awesome. I also, raw milk is a gut healing food. Whether it's goat milk, cow milk, sheep milk, as long as it's raw and it's not pasteurized, it's very bioavailable, it's very nutritional, and it's very healing. And so that is, it's got natural, microbes and probiotics in it, but it also has a lot of enzymes and other reparative factors. And then sort of a little spin-off on milk is colostrum.
Yeah,
for sure.
And, the definition of colostrum, mother's first milk, colostrum's super antibody rich. It's full of, growth factors, repair factors, tissue repair, and, immunoglobulins. It's very, very helpful for gut healing, amongst other things. So colostrum comes in powder, tastes like powdered milk. Pets love it. Even cats, like it. By the way, I talked about, collagen in bone broth. There's a lot of pet parents just giving a collagen powder in their pets' food now too. And Dr. Varco probably knows a lot about that. And my kitty loves collagen powder. You can literally just put collagen powder in a dish and she licks it. Loves it. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, I'll, just drift or mix it on the top of her food, or just sprinkle it. That's the way I want it, on the top of her food, and it is like an enticing thing. It's pretty cute. So she loves that. So that's also healing. And then I'm a big fan of fermented foods too.
Cool.
So good for the gut.
So that's on my list of gut healing foods, and kefir fits that bill. But even a little bit of fermented veggies and
dogs like that, okay, you think?
A lot of dogs do. And I might not start there. Like a little bit of kefir, even yogurt, plain yogurt, Greek yogurt is another fermented food that can be very beneficial. With fermented veggies, the vast majority of dogs like it. It could be fermented beets. It could be the standard sauerkraut, cabbage. Some people even do the mild kimchi versions. A lot of people make their own fermented veggies now for themselves and their pets. If it's like the store-bought standard with the huge strips of, like sometimes it's hard to chew and, dogs don't chew. Personally, I love, even for myself, I take fermented veggies and I throw them in the food processor and just chop them down to little fine bits. Digest easier. Dogs don't really chew. It's easier even for me when I eat them, and you don't have to sit there and chew these long strips of cabbage. So I like to play with texture too, to make it easier and more digestible.
With the bone broth and the raw milk, obviously these things are available for humans as well. Do you use the human or the pet varieties? And if so, what pet variety do you use, like for bone broth, for example?
Yeah, such a great question. Is there are a lot of good brands out there for bone broth and for raw milk for pets. Solutions and Green Juju are some of my faves, but there are certainly many others. Bone Broth Small Batch does that too.
Do they? They make a
Small batch does. And you know what's unique
cool.
about small batch, by the way, for their bone broth, which is a nice little side note, is that a lot of brands, including Solutions and Green Juju, some of my faves because they're high quality, but they come frozen. So you go to pet stores that have freezers and you would buy it frozen and thaw it and, feed it. But small batch bone broth actually comes stable at room temperature until you open it.
Oh, wow.
So it's in those nice, stand-up
Yeah.
flexible plastic packages with the little turn spout.
Oh, okay.
But once it's open, then you need to use it within 7 days or 7 to
cool.
10 days. And obviously once it's open, put it in the fridge. But for people who either don't have access to pet stores with freezers or they don't have a lot of storage space or they're traveling or whatever the reason may be, there are some companies like Small Batch that make bone broth
That's cool.
that you don't have to refrigerate till you open it. And on the same token, there are human bone broths. And a
Yeah.
lot of people think you can't feed a human, recipe bone broth or whatever to a dog or a store-bought, for human. And the amount of onion, and even though, yes, onions are toxic at, higher volumes to dogs, the little bit amount of spices and onion in a human-made bone broth, never, ever, ever, ever seen that to be a problem. I don't worry about that. So a quality bone broth, given in appropriate amounts,
Right.
volumes to a dog, I do not worry about. And a human bone broth is absolutely suitable. And there are several that are made like those in pouches where you may not have to refrigerate them till you open them. My big thing is do your best to get grass-fed, organic. Like
Yeah.
I'm more worried about that than on whether it's made for pets or made for people.
Yeah.
Good.
So
Well, I just bring it up because some people will ask about the onions or the garlic if
Yep.
it's in there, and I've always said the same thing. If it's cooked and in small amounts, I'm not worried about it. But I just
Same.
wanted. That's
yeah,
great
I
to
mean,
hear you
it's
feel the same way.
Same. Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Yeah, it takes a decent amount of onion to cause a problem, especially depending on the weight. But never seen that to be an issue. I don't worry about it.
Very cool.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
mushrooms?
Oh my gosh. So again, mushrooms are so cool. I'm glad you brought that up, Gabby, in the fact that we're sort of talking about gut healing foods,
Yeah.
but also supplements. And here's the thing, mushroom is a food and a supplement.
Yep.
It's that, it crosses both, bridges there
Yeah.
in that, we take medicinal mushrooms as a supplement, but they are indeed a food. And so mushrooms are so vastly beneficial. We could talk for hours just
Right.
about mushrooms.
Yes.
And, when I presented a few years ago my gut health lectures to, veterinarians at the AHVMA, I said, I delved into mushroom studies and PubMed studies and all this research on mushrooms. And I'm like, most of us veterinarians, especially in the integrative space, we are very keyed into the fact that mushrooms are immune supportive, immune modulators. We grab them for all immune things, autoimmune, allergy, cancer. We love our mushrooms for immune. And I'm like, who knew they were so amazing for gut health? Until you literally take a look and it's like, they are superstars for gut health as
they are.
well.
Yeah.
And so there are many studies that link very specific mushrooms from turkey tail to chaga to lion's mane, etc., to very specific, like lion's mane's been shown to help heal gut ulcers,
Wow.
stomach ulcers. We think of it, it's, claim
the
to fame
nervous
is
system,
nervous
yeah,
system,
brain.
brain cognition,
Right.
and lo and behold, it's amazing for gut too.
Oh, that's great.
Turkey tail, cancer, but
Yeah.
it's amazing for gut. So so mushrooms, they got a lot going on.
Yeah, they're like the Swiss Army knife. Of
They-
the,
they're
They're
do
great.
freaking
Yes,
everything.
you said that when we did our
Did I?
mushroom episode.
did I?
I remember you saying that because you're
It's
right.
a perfect.
It's so good.
They can literally lean
do
into
everything.
everybody's system
Yeah.
and every, support tactic. And so for the gut specifically, they are prebiotics. And we'll get into prebiotics, microbiome, and probiotics because that's a really important
Yeah.
discussion too. But mushrooms provide natural fibers and prebiotics, beta glucans,
Yes.
which are phenomenally, healing for the immune system, but also good for the gut, good for supporting the gut lining specifically and the creation of short chain fatty acids in the gut, which, the microbiome's part of all of that. And, many other specific, mushrooms have minerals, they have antioxidants.
They're amazing.
It's just amazing what
They're
they can
amazing.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just in San Francisco with my daughter recently. Walked into one of those Chinese medicine shops where they actually have teas and stuff, and they had giant reishi and organoderma mushrooms like the size of dinner plates there, and I was just like, oh my God, so such a
They're
cool
impressive
experience.
seen as like the
They
full,
are,
right, budding, mushroom.
They're so fun.
Yeah.
And they had so many other things. I was like a kid in a candy store, so
Yeah.
it's amazing. But mushrooms are one of my favorites too, so I think that's
And
a good
as you
thing to
know,
bring
they're
up.
so rooted in Chinese medicine.
So
and
much.
Almost every single Chinese formula, I mean, the majority have mushroom components in them. So yeah, centuries old medicine and food medicine there.
Yeah. How about homeopathy? And I ask you specifically because you have your own line.
Oh, thank you so much for bringing that in, because I've really become to appreciate homeopathy, more and more through the years. And I started using it years ago, but have really evolved into understanding, the role that can play as a good tool in the toolbox. And so I did develop my line of products last year, or the year before, actually.
Congratulations.
Now. Thank
That's
you.
exciting.
And most of my products to date are homeopathic, and I will expand into herbal and nutritional at some point. And I do have my dental product, which is in homeopathy, but most of my other products are homeopathic remedies. And homeopathy is unique as a tool within, the holistic toolbox, in that it's not herbal, it's not nutritional. A lot of people think that the word homeopathy and holistic are synonymous.
Right.
So even in veterinary records, sometimes, the Western conventional, veterinary notes might say, oh, this client's been seeing a homeopathic vet, and they really mean holistic vet. And so I love to make that distinction for people. Holistic is the whole umbrella of natural medicine, supportive, preventative medicine and such, with natural tools. But homeopathy is a very specific tool that we can use within, our natural toolbox, that comes from natural substances, organic substances, but they are diluted down to very, very extreme dilutions, which lends to their safety. These dilutions, or these components, are so dilute, they have no toxic side effects, but they work on an energetic level, like literally quantum energy, in just nudging the body to create a shift and back into balance, or toward balance and back into homeostasis. And so homeopathy is easily absorbed. It's very gentle on the body, but it really assists the body to get back into balance and to function better. And so when we get to, when we are using it for digestive disorders, homeopathy has such a beautiful application there, because when pets are really sensitive and they're very symptomatic, a homeopathic digestive supplement can really support the symptom management, but also in a very gentle way. So for pets that are extremely sensitive, or even for if they're not, but certainly if they are, if people find it hard to, any little food change sets them off, or adding, some of the other supplements or herbs that they tried to do create symptoms, starting with homeopathy is a beautiful place to start, because you will almost never see any negative from it. I mean, really, you won't.
That's great.
And so I love using that. And my formulas are made into a liquid tincture. And actually the pet parent, they come as the pellets, which have the different remedies that are custom blended that address many aspects within the GI system. So the formula that I created, which I call my tummy blend, is phenomenal for upper GI.
Oh, great.
For reflux, indigestion, all those kinds of symptoms, even stomach cramping, yucky stomach feeling when dogs are, stretching out and doing that bow, or, acting like their stomach doesn't feel well, inappetent if they don't want to eat, that sort of thing.
That's a big one.
So so it's really helpful there, but it also helps for middle GI, for IBD. It's one of my favorite things to do for that too, and can help for lower GI and colon as well. So that tummy blend really is a nice comprehensive blend, but is a great thing to tie in for any symptom support, especially early on. And that's often if the pet is very symptomatic, especially significant symptoms, I'll start with homeopathy. I actually didn't, so thank you for bringing that in. It's a really good starting point, and then layering in other things, and then usually the homeopathy can come out, but could always be popped back in if they have a little flare up or setback.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other beautiful thing about homeopathy is it absorbs from the mucous membranes, meaning it absorbs from the gums or the gingiva. So I tell people you can put it in the food if you need to, but ideally we love it to go straight to the gums and absorb in the mouth. So if the pet's not eating, it's great. You don't need them to eat. It's just going to absorb. It bypasses the gut. It doesn't need the gut to absorb and get into the body system.
That's awesome.
It's going in through the gums, and so and it tastes like water because it's based, with a water base. And so I love to tell people you can just, part the lips, pull down the lip a little bit, just drizzle it in. You don't need to get them to swallow it.
Carmine's
taste
taking
like-
some. He just tasted it.
See, it just tastes like water. I
Pretty
have
much
people
water.
tell me their cats come
some?
to them for
Oh,
it.
good, thanks.
Their
I'll have
cats
some
will
later.
literally come going, I want my drops.
Oh my God,
And,
that's so
and
great.
dogs too, in that they
Maybe
know
a
it's
little
helping them and
sweet
it doesn't
tasting to
taste
me.
bad.
Let's
There's
see.
Yeah,
something on
because
top
the
of that.
pellets do have
Sugar in them. Of course
the
they do.
pellets have a little sucrose in them.
That's why.
So, and that's why we do with my particular products, because there's no alcohol to keep them preserved at
That's
room
so
temperature.
important.
It does say on the label to store them in the refrigerator for up to 3 months and then pitch it. So if you're continuing to use them, you'd buy them
Yeah.
quarterly, but with no preservative. There's no alcohol,
Right.
which means they don't taste crummy.
Right.
Yeah.
And
That's so
because if your
important.
pets, especially cats
Oh,
or
yeah.
finicky dogs, if they taste the alcohol every time they see you get the bottle thereafter, they're running
out.
from you. With this, it tastes very pleasant, and a lot of pets are happy to
And
get
it
there.
doesn't have a strong aroma. I mean, it barely
Right.
smells like anything to me, and I'm not a dog. Their acuity is impressive, but it's not, it's not off-putting. So I think that's great.
So thank you. Yeah, so it's worked out really well. It is literally, my tummy blend is my top seller, one of my
Is it?
top.
That's cool.
And it really is such a high rate of success with
That's
that
neat.
formula. Yeah, it works really well. So I love that. But it's one tool in
Yeah.
a toolbox of many awesome
Yeah.
things. So I'm glad we added that in. But it's
so neat.
it's a nice complement to lots of other
And
things
that's
we're
at
discussing.
drkadies.com. You can
Yes,
get the
thank
tummy
you.
Yeah.
drkadies,
Yeah.
KATIES.com is my product website.
Yeah, and we'll put the link in our
Thank
notes
you.
for you,
Yes.
because I think it's and you're just so informative and just so knowledgeable. It's just such an honor to have you here, and I love that you have a product that you believe in and that you're
thank you.
helping pets with. I think that's really lovely.
I really
That's so
appreciate
cool.
that. It's been
No,
rewarding.
I-
It continues to be.
I
Good.
think one other thing, or several other things, of course, but another thing that we've touched on, danced around a lot, is the microbiome, of course.
Yes,
you.
like testing
I wanted
and
to go there.
Yeah,
We need
Yes.
to talk about a little bit of testing, and also what do we do about it? How do we
Excellent.
fix it?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Love the microbiome discussion. And just to explain to everybody what the microbiome is, most people have heard that. Most people probably know what it is, but just to be clear, the microbiome could be described as the ecosystem of bacteria
That's a good way to put that.
that are living in the body, and every part of the body has its own microbiome, actually.
Right.
But the gut microbiome is such a big part of the microbiome discussion, and obviously under discussion today because we're talking about the gut and
Right.
digestion. But let's just be clear, we have an oral microbiome in the mouth, we have a skin microbiome in the dermal layer, we got the microbiome in the respiratory system and the nose, and
Right.
the nostrils and the sinus. I mean, we got a microbiome everywhere.
Yeah.
And our microbiomes are ultra important to not only our immune system but our function. And without our microbiome, our gut can't digest. We can't, use our nutrients. We can't do a lot of things. But so important in the, immune discussion around the gut as well. And so microbiome testing is now becoming commonplace with we integrative,
Some Western
clinicians.
veterinarians too.
And
Yeah,
even in the
yeah.
Western sector
Yeah.
too, especially with internal medicine
Exactly.
specialists,
Yes.
because they're
Very
the
much
ones
so.
going to all of these, high level, conferences and learning the cutting edge things that a lot of internal medicine specialists are starting to recommend microbiome testing, or at the very least dysbiosis testing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And let's
exactly.
define that too, in that when the microbiome is out of balance, which by the way, let's face it, the vast majority of humans and pets on this planet our microbiomes are not in
I
optimal
confess.
balance,
Yes.
right? If we go testing, if we look for it, we're going to
It's-
find that.
yep.
So when the microbiome is out of balance, we call that dysbiosis. That just means it's out of balance. And then another term that gets thrown around we could define too is SIBO.
Yes.
The acronym SIBO stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So that's when there's a dysbiosis or an imbalance, but we have an overgrowth of harmful bacteria. And that happens very frequently, of course, in
Right.
pets and in humans. And so when we're testing the microbiome, it's a stool test and it gets sent in, and we get, depending on the type of test, if it's, just a straight up dysbiosis or something like the animal biome, lab test, which I
test.
use a lot. Love that test. Then we literally get back a profile, an
Yeah.
assay of what are the groups of bugs in this pet's gut and what are their ratios and how does that compare to what's considered a reference range of a normal healthy dog or a
Yeah.
normal healthy cat. And boy, oh boy, sometimes, what I love to tell people is 95% of the time they're going to have an imbalance. It's just how severe is it?
Right.
Is
Yeah.
it mild? Is it moderate? Is it screaming severe? And is
Yeah.
there a SIBO involved?
And what bacteria? Because we
Yep.
know certain shifts are associated with certain disease conditions like IBD or behavioral issues or
Yes. Oh, I'm glad
and
you brought up
cancer.
behavior. Thank you, Gabby. Because one thing we didn't touch on in this discussion yet is the gut-brain axis.
Yes.
Right.
And I kept thinking, and there's so much to talk about, but just to let everyone know, in regards to that, is that there's a huge connection between the gut and the brain and
Yes.
the nervous system. And so you hit on that when you said anxiety and behavior and aggression, is that the gut and the brain are linked, and the microbiome is a huge piece of that. And in fact, the neurotransmitters, many of the neurotransmitters that our pets need and that we need for optimal brain health are manufactured in the gut, either directly or indirectly by the microbiome. And three of the biggies that a lot of people know as mood support are serotonin, the feel-good chemical,
Yeah.
our dopamine, and GABA. And this is all the same for our pets, our cats and
Yeah.
dogs, are reliant on the microbiome and the gut. And up to 2/3 or more of production of these are rely on gut. And so there have been many studies that have shown aggression and anxiety in dogs are linked to microbiome. And so literally supporting your pet back to a better microbiome balance supports their mood, their behavior,
Yeah.
their immune system, their gut health, everything. So the microbiome is it's networked into every facet of health, really.
Yeah.
So it's a huge topic, and I love that we're testing for it. So
Yeah.
I consider that
A
in
minimum
any
database.
minimum data.
Yep.
Thank you, exactly. Especially, in most integrative veterinarians I think that I talk to love that to be just part of the annual minimum database.
Great.
Like, you're coming in for just an overall wellness, let's stay healthy, let's figure out what's going on in the body, let's do a microbiome stool test. But if your pet has digestive
Yes.
issues or IBD, hands down,
Yes.
you want that test. That is money well spent. Let's figure out what's going on. And if there's a screaming SIBO, there's an overgrowth of something harmful. And let's also say that all of these bacteria in small amounts can be fine.
Right.
But when they're overgrown, not fine. And the three that I see overgrown in the animal biome lab tests that I do, most often for pets, are either Clostridium species or E. coli or Shigella species, or Streptococcus species. And there are some others, but those are the three biggies. The good news is there are things that are quite effective, that are easy to do to address that. Now, we've got to be doing other things
Right.
simultaneously. It's not like we just try to fix the microbiome and ignore, that the pet has reflux and they've been on antacid. There's all
Right.
these things. But this is definitely an approach that's going to make a huge difference. And there are simple supplements. Aspergillosis, Saccharomyces
Yes.
boulardii is
Favorite.
a unique yeast
I love that
probiotic
one.
that helps to reduce Clostridium species. So it helps to kick out Clostridium. It's amazing, and it helps to address. In fact, we didn't bring that up yet. That even for diarrhea, Aspergillosis is amazing.
Huge.
And for humans too.
Huge.
And and the beautiful thing about Aspergillosis, it doesn't compete with any good guy bacteria. It only competes with bad guy bacteria. So you can actually do that one long term. and you're not creating any competition, in the gut or whatever. When it comes to standard probiotics, I like to use them, meaning bacterial, beneficial bacterial probiotics. I like to use them intermittently and not overuse them. A lot of GI experts on the human and veterinary side now are having concerns about, with all the studies and things that are being demonstrated, is the overuse of probiotics and continually on the same probiotic product month after month, year after year. What we now are doing is out-competing a lot of the diversity and good guys that we've got in there. Because remember, we're taking these probiotics, and again, routinely, they're using up the resources, they're eating up the prebiotic fibers that the other bugs need, they're taking up space, and they're literally just out-crowding everybody. And they've shown in studies now, in animals and humans, that people and pets on continual probiotics can have more of a dysbiosis than someone on no probiotics at all. So I favor diverse diet, fibers and good, veggie quality and species appropriate or optimal fibers in the diet to feed the microbiome. Fermented foods in the diet. And the more diverse your diet is, the better. And let's just kill that myth of feeding your pet the same thing every day for their whole life is a good idea. Because if you don't feed them that same thing, they're going to get GI upset. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You eat I tell people, if you're a vegetarian for 5 straight years and you go out and eat a big greasy hamburger your first day one of I'm going to eat meat now, you're going to not feel well. So our pets are eating the same thing all the time. Their digestive system gets so narrow and not adaptive that then they can't handle anything else. Well, guess what? When we eat a very narrow diet, this is very important on the human side in a modern day fast food, standard American diet, sad diet kind of situation. The more narrow our diet is, the more narrow our microbiome is. And it's the same for our pets. You diversify your diet, you diversify the incoming ingredients or components and types of fibers, you diversify your microbiome. And so I prefer to focus on variety and rotation in diet, fermented foods, mushrooms, all these things that helps to build and not over-rely or overuse probiotics. Everything in moderation.
That's such a good point, because I can't tell you how often now I see people on the same probiotic because they've gotten it from their vet or their emergency vet or whatever, and they've been on it for months and months
or
and
years.
months and months. And then one of the recommendations I heard a long time ago was to rotate different probiotics. But if you look at the labels,
most of them are the same.
They're all lactobacillus and maybe some bifido,
bifido,
or whatever. So it's just interesting that you really probiotics are great. But supporting the microbiome in other ways is so much better.
Right. I was going to say equally, but actually more important. And there are some probiotic, companies and products that are coming out with specific canine strains, because we know there's soil probiotics. There's there's certainly lab grown probiotics that we know these are good bacterial species. And the way I like to describe it to people too is that these probiotics, they're friendly bacteria. They're doing good things in our gut. They're moving through, doing good things to support, our digestion and our health. But then they're out of there. They're not coming in and setting up house and home and becoming residential populations. So that's why they compete with your residents, and a kind of a nice context to demonstrate that for people is that with the animal microbiome stool test, it says right on the packaging, when you're going to submit a stool sample, stop any probiotic products 3 days before sending in your stool sample for your pet. So that's a good thing to tell everybody when you're going to do a microbiome test. Any probiotic products, just stop for 72 hours, 3 days ahead of time, because they want that stool sample to represent what is in your guts ongoing microbiome and not what's just moving through in the product you just gave them yesterday. And here's the thing, within 3 days, any probiotics you're giving are gone. They moved in, they moved out, they helped out, and then they're gone. We want to support that pet to have a thriving, ongoing ecosystem that's theirs, that lives there in harmony, the best that we can. And so that's kind of a nice little differentiation between a probiotic product. It's a temporary helper. It's nice, especially when, and I love to tell people, here's another distinction, is that for a human or a pet, if you are on a poor diversity, low quality, heavily processed. Taking a probiotic every day might be more helpful than not, because you're kind of at a bad baseline already.
Right.
So at least you have these friendly guys coming in all the time and helping the body out. But if you are on a diverse, healthy, fresh food diet, taking a probiotic every day might actually sometimes offer more of a negative than a positive, because then you're out competing. So it's that if your baseline is really poor, maybe you hedge towards more consistent probiotics. But if you are actively working on that really good baseline and foundation, then overdoing probiotics is not really a super positive.
Yeah, I love that. And at what point would you consider an FMT?
Oh, love that. So the FMT
Jumped right in, didn't
being,
I did. I just ripped the
she's
Band-Aid.
like, let's
FMT.
please
I was
go
like,
there.
let's do it.
Yeah. So,
Define
okay.
FMT.
Yes,
So
please.
here's the thing is the whole, one of the reasons we're doing the microbiome test is, of course, not only to find out how significant the imbalance is and what the specifics of that imbalance, but what do we do about it?
Right.
We're testing to see how do we correct the microbiome. And so an FMT is the acronym for fecal microbiota transfer or transplant. So basically a fecal transplant.
Right.
Poop.
And poop. And I love the term that I think Animal Biome Lab used to say when they first, evolved is poo-biotics.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
That's a while ago,
is that
that's
instead of
right.
probiotics, we're like poo-biotics. So basically they're taking from dogs that have been tested to have a healthy, diverse microbiome that's considered, a good population for that for canine species or feline species. For cats, theirs is going to be a little different, of course. So is taking stools from those dogs and literally creating freeze-dried donor stool microbiome capsules, and then putting them in a supplement bottle. And so you're basically giving a poop supplement in a capsule to repopulate your pet, your dog, or your cat's microbiome environment.
Yeah.
And those capsules, it's worth noting, they are enteric coated, especially, the capsules are special to not break down in the stomach to get through that stomach acid that they're supposed to have. We talked about that into the lower gut, down into the colon and the large intestine, to populate that area where the target area is.
Yeah.
And so it's very important that these FMTs, if they're given orally, are given with those, inside those capsules. So you don't want your pet to chew the capsule. You don't want to open the capsule and put it in the food.
Please don't.
It has to be
Oh my
delivered
God.
as a whole capsule to work well. And most of these FMT protocols would go for a couple of months, 30 to 60 days. It's usually 60 capsules. Some pets might go to one capsule twice a day. A lot of pets, especially if they're sensitive or symptomatic, I find one capsule a day is better. Sometimes even one every other day, or if they're super sensitive, one every third day. And I tell people, you still get to the same endpoint. It just takes longer.
Yeah.
So it's not a race to repopulate their gut with these good bugs. And then once that protocol is done, and we'll talk about the enema style, then when the capsules are finished, waiting at least 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, and then retesting another stool test to see how well did that microbiome transfer work. Did it stay? Did a lot of these bug groups stay? You give it that 2 to 4 weeks to see if they're going to survive in the gut and set up house and home and become a new residential population, which is obviously our goal. And sometimes it takes 2 or 3 rounds of that. Sometimes you get a shift to it's a little better than it was before, but we've still got a lot of imbalance there, and so we keep going. And then about the whole FMT, treatment option, the other method of replacing or doing the FMT is with the enema style.
Right.
So we're actually, putting a rectal, catheter in, and giving it as a slurry, a poop smoothie.
Yeah, Carmine just did one last week.
There you go.
2 last week.
A poop
Yeah,
slurry right into the rectum. And there's a lot of attributes. There's a lot of attributes because it's like a slurry, right? There's a lot of reasons to do it that way. For pets that either are super sensitive and don't tolerate the oral route, for people who have a really hard time giving a capsule and it's into, they're like, my pet won't let me put it down their throat and I can't stop them from chewing it. They're really, they're finicky, whatever the reason may be. But also doing the rectal route It can just be a faster fix. It
It's
works
right to the
faster.
source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes right there. You don't have to do the whole 60-day ordeal, blah, blah, blah. You might repeat it once
Yeah.
in a week or two or whatever, but, it's a little more labor intensive, might be a little more expensive. You go to your vet, you go through the process, but it has its, absolute upsides too. So,
Yeah, I think
so a
that's
couple different
that's
methods.
a really interesting thing. I mean, I think you and I talked about this earlier too, I believe, but it goes along with the whole fixing the gut first, because people come in all the time and they want an FMT because they've read about it, they've heard about it.
Right.
But if that gut's messed up, I've seen dogs get sick from an FMT.
Thank you for saying
even
that.
oral
Especially
FMT.
even oral.
Yeah,
Especially even
both
oral.
of
I'm
them.
so glad you said that. And that kind of brings us a little bit full circle back to when we said staging. Like, you don't always have
Exactly.
to change the diet or something right away, because you want to set the stage for success of thinking through that process, very specifically. And if people come to me and they've already done a microbiome test, and and if there's a SIBO, if there's like a screaming overgrowth of something yucky, then let's just put in some Saccharomyces boulardii or
Yeah.
the Prefer Pro, the thing that helps to get E. coli down, those kinds of things. But I don't always rush into an
No.
FMT. I like to set the stage for, let's get inflammation down, let's get digestion better, let's get the overgrowth of the really bad guys starting to get dampened down, and then we, next or soon get that influx of new good bacteria to start. But if you go to that too quick, that can backfire,
Yeah,
and the
right.
pet can get more symptomatic. And another thing I'd love to tie into that is the ion, very specifically, or things that are similar with
Right.
these humic and fulvic acids that are repairing and sealing leaky gut. I love to tell people, getting the ion or something similar started before you do the FMT is a
100%.
beautiful
You have to.
way of organizing that treatment, because, or ordering things, because once you've started that and you are addressing leaky gut, you are now with a sealed gut, that terrain. If you have a leaky gut and there's inflammation and all this stuff's going on, and you're just like, I want to fix the microbiome, and you dump in all these new bugs, they're not going to stay. They're not going to have the same effect. But if you strategically, the enzymes, the inflammation's going down, the ions sealing the gut, and then you introduce your FMT, voila, you've got a way better success, stage set for you.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I remember another boxer that came in with really bad intestinal issues that had gone to the internal medicine doctor and scoped and biopsied and everything, and they came in, this is years ago, and I still see this dog, but came in and they wanted an FMT, and I'm like, okay, well, and I did it without being intelligent about it, and that dog got sick, like vomiting, not feeling well, and it took about 3 or 4 days for him to get better. But it's really important that we pay attention. I mean, if that leaky gut, remember, that means that things go from both sides. If something that comes in the gut is going to go out into the bloodstream, so I just put a whole bunch of poop in your dog's bloodstream. So it's kind of an important thing to think
and
about.
it's never, and it's not that anybody did anything wrong. It's just that, we know that that's, a helpful strategy. It's just understanding the order and clinical experience and functional medicine knowledge. We learn that the order of steps can
You only got to make that mistake once.
Yeah,
Not gonna do it again.
exactly. We learn that there can be a better way.
What do you think about, so it's very interesting with this, because what do you think about, so you do an FMT, oral or rectally, dogs eating raw food, cooked food, homemade food, or dry food or whatever. Do you think should be a difference in the FMT? Do we usually do that nowadays, or is it just kind of like, I know the two I'm familiar with for the FMT stuff is either Legacy or
Animal Biome. Yeah, Legacy.
I think
Biome as well.
Legacy tends to be more raw-based food, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you let me know. I'm not sure.
Such a good, as far as that it is, naturally reared and naturally fed, dogs. But Animal Biome does have a distinction. They sell two different kinds. They sell
They do,
kibble
that's
fed
right.
and raw fed. Now, according to the Animal Biome team, which makes perfect sense to me, they don't think it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because
That's what
they're
I
like,
wondered.
we are testing the microbiome in the gut. We're literally, using, samples from these
Yeah.
dogs that have been tested. So we're going by the bacteria that are in these samples. We're not going by what, so it doesn't really
Right.
matter what they fed, because at this level, we're putting the bacteria in. So whether that pet was eating something, that it really shouldn't matter.
That's what I was wondering.
They say the reason they make the distinction and offer the two different products
Marketing.
is for marketing, for clients and for vets.
I bet.
Because honestly, there's a lot of Western conventional vets that don't believe in raw. They're afraid of it. And so they want kibble fed, because they're like, oh, I don't want something fed a raw dog. And then you have pet parents who are very into fresh food and raw food, and they're like, I don't want bacteria from kibble fed dog to go into my dog. Like, I've spent all this money and time and effort feeding my dog raw. Why would I want microbiome from kibble fed dog? Like, that seems backward, you know? And so they literally do it for personal preference. They don't think that therapeutically or outcome that it makes any difference. And that makes sense to me. And I've never clinically been able to
I
tell
was just wondering what you
that
thought
it makes a
too.
difference. Yeah.
Microbiome is so fascinating. Gabby has a research project not yet published that she's going into right now, or in the middle of, I should say, doing a microbiome study on specific things. I don't want to talk about it, but it's so fascinating. There's even a Netflix special. You've probably seen it
Did you
before.
see it?
No.
Oh my god.
gosh,
Okay,
I
so
have
it's
to see
really
it.
It's really cute,
It's
actually,
really
too.
good, but it does, because they'll do FMTs in humans, and spoiler alert, somebody just, you know what I'm going to mention,
I
right?
do.
Somebody decided to do it on her own.
On their own, yeah.
So she had her boyfriend, and this is so interesting because I was literally thinking about this and I was like, oh, she had her boyfriend produce stool for her, and then she would freeze it and they would blend it and they would make capsules, this whole thing. It was in their whole kitchen, right? They'll show it. You have to see this. I think that the very interesting thing was it her brother or her boyfriend that she had to
was her
switch,
brother.
because apparently the brother or the boyfriend had anxiety issues and
She started.
Yes.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
see, that's a whole nother level. So we talked about raw food versus kibble-fed
Right.
food,
Right.
which, according to a lot of experts, shouldn't make a difference. But Gabby, that's like a whole rabbit hole we could
Right.
jump
Right.
into, which is so cool. But I have clients who are very informed and,
Yes.
see all this and read and, follow a lot of experts. And this is very true, that
Yes.
they have shown in a lot of circumstances that, and we know that the microbiome is very tied in, as we talked with the gut-brain axis and mood and everything and behavior. And so that taking a microbiome from somebody who has anxiety issues and then, putting it into you or your pet or whatever, that can also, set the stage for now you've, got a gut that's supporting an anxious brain.
Right.
Versus,
Yeah.
and on the flip side, other metabolics besides just that is they've shown, and you both may be aware of these studies, is that in mice and humans, that they've shown obesity
Yep.
and lean body. So they literally take a microbiome out of an obese person or mouse and give it to someone who's lean, and then they get fat.
Yes.
Or vice versa, take it out of a fat one to a lean one. And so, the microbiome is so largely in control of our metabolism. But see, feeding the microbiome can make a difference. And a lot of these, gut health and integrative experts are like, we are creating our microbiome to do that.
Yeah. Right.
So it's good to know that the microbiome is in charge and directing a lot of it, but we've created that scenario. So
Yeah.
let's keep in mind, we're not necessarily a victim of our microbiome. We can change that
Right.
to a healthy, diverse microbiome. So, it's good to recognize the role, but not take on like, oh, now we can't do, we're screwed.
Right.
We haven't,
Right.
I'm destined to be fat because my microbiome sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason the microbiome is doing that is that the more carbs
Right.
and sugars people eat, you literally train your microbiome, and your bugs that love proteins and your bugs that love veggie fibers start dying off in numbers because you're not feeding them.
Right.
So then your carb-loving bugs take over, and they are constantly sending signals to your brain that you need to eat more potato chips and ice cream because they need that. And your other bugs that are telling you to eat veggies and stuff, they're gone, so you're not getting any
Right.
messages from them.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal, and you can't change that overnight. So they literally, a lot of integrative gut health experts talk about this for humans, that you slowly rebuild and retrain your
Yeah.
microbiome to get back diversified. And that this will segue perfectly into something I did want to bring up, and we didn't tag this in yet, is that when you get back the reports from the animal biome lab,
we talked about this.
their tests that, and the test reports go right to the pet parents, too, so that they'll see this as well, is that it'll show the profile of bugs and the ratios and if there's overgrowth of bad guys or whatever. And then you get down to the what to do section.
Yeah.
Here's the recommended plan. And it'll say almost always, because there's almost always a dysbiosis, that they want you to use the FMT capsules. If there's an overgrowth of something, they'll say use the Aspilarity or use the Prefer Pro or whatever, the gut rebuild, the gut
Restore or whatever.
Yeah, the Restore is the FMT. But there's also a dietary section.
Yeah.
And there's two things they'll call out. And sometimes it'll say no dietary changes, advised based on this. That's the minority of the time. And the majority of the time, it's either going to say one of these or both. It'll say your pet could use an increase in fiber in the diet, or this pet could use an increase of protein in the diet. And sometimes it's both, sometimes it's one or the other.
Right.
And the reason that the test results say that is because that microbiome assay has indicated if there are the fiber-loving bugs are depleted in that, in the ratios of groups, then we know that increasing fiber in the pet's diet will help feed with those prebiotics, those particular bug groups that need the help. If the protein-loving bugs that are associated with digesting and breaking down our proteins and creating the metabolites we need in our body from that macronutrient, then it'll say this pet could use increased protein. Now, the interesting caveat to that is most of the patients that come to me are eating high quality diets. Most of the time fresh food, minimally processed, maybe it's freeze dried or whatever, but good quality, good protein. So it'll say increased protein on there, and clients will be like, I'm confused, my dog eats plenty of protein, do I need to add? And some people are literally adding more protein to the diet thinking the pet's not getting enough, and it's like, no, that diet has enough protein. It's that the microbiome bugs can't access the protein well. So those groups are depleted. So one of the best ways to do that, yes, review your diet, make sure you have high quality proteins that are digestible as opposed to heavily processed, overcooked kibble, hard to access those proteins for the body, or poor quality proteins. But digestive enzymes.
Yes.
So digestive enzymes, again, those proteases, the pepsin we talked about in the stomach, having good acidity in the stomach. Some of the digestive enzymes actually include betaine, HCl, or hydrochloride to acidify the stomach. Another thing that a lot of humans do that we can do for pets, put a little apple cider vinegar in the food, etc. So the enzymes, the acidity is breaking down those proteins, making them more accessible for the intestines to absorb and for the bugs to use in the microbiome. And so I love people to know that when it says increased protein, it's often actually just make it more digestible so those bugs can access it. And digestive enzymes are a key way to do that. And lo and behold, Animal Biome, great company, they created a digestive enzyme product because they kept seeing a need for that. And so now they'll list theirs.
Oh, that's
but,
great.
Obviously they're not, they're going to support clients to do whatever, works for them. It's one tool, but they did create a digestive enzyme blend because I saw a need for it in evaluating the biome.
That's great. I love that they can evolve with the things that they're seeing. Like they're actually
changed so
analyzing.
They made a mushroom supplement. We talked
Yeah.
about that. They've really expanded their line because they've found with, their expert, clinical microbiology, assessments that these are the things that pets need to help, support them
We should
back
put
onto
a
the
link
right
to
track.
them too.
Yeah,
So
we should.
that's-
They're paying attention, and I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest thing. They're not just out for, hey, just buy our product or do our.
Right.
They're paying attention and they're seeing the trends and seeing where the.
Because when they
needs-
first started, they had no products other than the
I
FMT
remember.
capsules.
Yeah.
They were sending everybody to Amazon, go buy Aspilarity, go buy, and now they literally have 2 dozen,
Wow.
things.
lot.
It's amazing. So
It's
they've
Animal
done a
Biome.
good job with serving the need and serving the market. And when people were going and having to buy humans, it was very confusing. How do I dose it? It's not
Right.
an animal label. So now they create things to just, really simplify and make it easy access for people to.
I love the fact too that they are direct to consumer, meaning that anybody can go to animalbiome.com and order their doggy biome microbiome test.
Kitties and doggies.
Now, one of the things you said to me when we were talking, I think last week or the week before, was that I underutilized this, is that they have a 20-minute consult, right?
Oh, thank you for bringing
You
that
brought
up.
that up, and
Yes.
I thought
Yeah.
that, and I forgot about that. So
yeah,
it's really good
and
point.
I often have to like encourage my clients to use it because when they come to me for consultations, is that if I'm recommending an animal bio, if they haven't already done, some of my clients have already done it, most of them haven't, and I'm recommending it. And so when they buy that test kit, it comes with a complimentary consult with the price of
That's
the test.
great.
A phone consult with an expert at the animal biome team, and they go over 15-20 minutes on the phone, and they send the client a written typed out report, and it's just 1 or 2 pages. It's very it's like bullet pointed and pretty
Yeah.
easy of this is the recommended plan. Some of my clients were skipping that, thinking, well, I'm just going to talk to Dr. Katie about it
Right.
anyway, so I don't need that. And I'm like, no, you just missed a great value. It's included in the
Right.
test. Do it.
Yeah.
Because they're the experts. Unfortunately, I've seen hundreds of these now, so I'm quite good. But in the beginning, believe me, I'm learning how to interpret these and how to guide my clients.
Right.
So I relied a lot on those consults, because then the client would send it to me too. Here's what Animal Biome told me. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
I get to see what the experts there said.
Yeah.
This is what we need. And the other beautiful thing about that consult is that when you're getting the results report, of course, that's a computer algorithm.
Right.
I mean, they're not by hand, printing out and going over everything. So
Right.
the computer sees the results of that pet, what they found in that microbiome assay, and then the computer spits out, okay, this pet needs aspergillosis because the Clostridium was high, and it spits
Yeah.
out this pet increased protein, increased fiber, digestive enzyme. That is all a computer algorithm based on the microbiome profile. But when you take the value of talking with that expert
Yes.
verbally, that is a human brain looking at it going, oh, well, it says increased protein, but I can see you wrote down your pet's on a raw food diet, blah, blah, blah. Your pet's getting plenty of protein.
Right.
You don't need to increase the protein
Right.
in the diet. It's that your pet could use some digestive enzymes,
That's
or
cool.
you should talk with your veterinarian and see your veterinarian about what have you not evaluated in your pet's digestive tract that needs to be addressed. They are very supportive about sending people back to their veterinarian
great.
in working through that and not sidestepping. And they start every report with, if you're working with a veterinarian already, please discuss all of these recommendations
Good,
with them.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I think one other thing too with that, not that this is a major thing, but if you have pet insurance, it may be beneficial for your vet to do the test, even though they don't need to.
'tis true.
Only because they'll
Yeah.
cover it.
Yes.
If you order it
Yeah.
online yourself,
Yes.
they oftentimes
I
don't
have
cover
found
it.
that a lot of my clients with pet insurance, if I prescribe the test,
Yes.
Oh,
and they may not even have to buy it through me,
Oh, is that
but
right?
if they
Just
have
prescribe it.
veterinary notes saying that I prescribe that this is
cool.
a
Very
medically recommended procedure,
Yeah.
test, diagnostic test, that insurance will cover it.
yeah. So get
And
your
sometimes
vet
they
to
buy it through me,
prescribe it. Yeah.
or they may not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's neat. Yeah, I didn't know that. I always would, obviously, I would carry
that's-
the test
if
for
it's
that
in
way.
the doctor's
If it's-
notes that this is a recommended,
Yeah.
cool.
it's like a recommend, it's like, hey, I want to do a CBC
Right.
chemistry and I want a microbiome
Yeah.
test.
That's super awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping that all of these things start becoming minimum database, because they're just so important, and it's really hard to pick and choose. And, the CBC chem, thyroid, urine, oftentimes they come back normal and there's still something there, and we need to do a deeper dive
Yep.
in order to identify that.
Functional
Because it doesn't
medicine.
tell us
Absolutely.
everything.
Functional
Yeah, I mean,
medicine.
I do functional medicine for myself and my family. I think it's so important.
And
Yeah.
expanding that minimum database
Mm-hmm.
helps us treat at the N of 1.
Yes,
So,
the N of
yeah.
one.
I
I
like
just
that.
love
Yeah.
that. I
Isn't that
really do,
great?
because it's so true. It's so true. It's not, for the masses. It's
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's so we can figure out what's going on in this individual's body right now. Oh, that's another great concept, which I don't know, that could be the closing concept. I don't know if we need to wrap up soon. But, that everyone is, an individual, and treating, I just lost what I was going to, there was a great concept I was going to do out of that. And then I got all excited about wrapping it up with that. It'll come back to me. But anyway, that's, treating them as an individual
Right.
is really the way to approach all of this.
I think
And-
we focused on that quite a bit.
Yeah, because if you
Yeah.
have, people get so excited and they're like, well, I'm going to do this for all my pets. And it's not always appropriate for all your pets.
Right.
So you're right. The N of 1, the individual, it's so important
Yeah.
because it's not right for everybody and not right for every stage of their life either.
Thank you. That brought me right back to
Okay.
what
There
I was
you
going to
go.
say. Oh, Gabby, you're
I feel
the
like we're
best.
connected.
In that the body, thank you so much, that the body is an ever-changing dynamic structure. That's exactly what I was going to say, is that what's appropriate for you right now, or what the test result says right now, is not what the test result's going to be 6 months from now, or 3
Yeah.
months from now, or 2 years from now. And that, testing throughout time is always appropriate, because the body is always changing.
Yeah.
And is a very dynamic, innate, brilliant structure that has the capacity to heal. It's the same thing, just to tie in that concept, because it's an easy way, is with food sensitivity testing.
Yeah.
I love to tell people, if you've done a food sensitivity, because people say to me all the time, oh, I did a
Right.
food sensitivity test on my pet 5 years ago. They can't eat chicken. They
Right.
can't eat,
Right.
turkey or rabbit or whatever it may
Right.
be. And I'm like, that's old news. With a food sensitivity or a food allergy, your pet has a completely different metabolic,
Yes.
workings and system and status right now than it did even 6 months ago, let alone
Yeah.
6 years ago. And so if people are doing food sensitivity testing, or any testing, microbiome testing, you can't hang on that result
Right.
being, it's not where the body is
Yeah.
in the near future or in the later future. So
Right.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's that's the point I wanted to drive home, is that
And I like the retesting aspect too. I think that's one of those things that I instructed a lot of the vets I've worked with before, is that just because you put them on this therapy, you really should recheck them in
Absolutely.
a minimum of 60 days and preferably 30 days if you can, just to see where they're at. And you can adjust your protocol, you can fix, you can add to it. With Chinese medicine is a great example. People put them on this herb and that's what they are on. Well, no, they shouldn't be. There are some herbs that could be long-term. There's a lot of them that aren't long-term.
Yeah, and it'll say
Yeah.
it too, only for
Right.
X
Up to
amount of time.
Because the
Yeah.
whole point of Chinese herbs is to address the pattern and shift the pattern back into better balance and
More
homeostasis and more normal. And so if it's working, and the other additions of things you're doing are working to get that body in balance, why would you need to stay
Right.
on that
Right.
exact same
Right.
formula forever?
It doesn't make any
So
sense.
again, another beautiful closing or getting toward wrapping up point is follow-ups are so important.
Yeah.
And
Have to.
I love telling people that, is I can't generally heal your animal in one session.
Right.
There's so much work to be done. It's a process,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and a commitment to that process, and an understanding that follow-ups are just as important as that initial consultation.
much.
Yeah.
So true.
Because we need to track how are things working for that individual pet, and where do we go from here, and how do we settle into more of a maintenance and preventative and
Yeah.
continued ongoing
Exactly.
plan versus
Exactly.
the shifting plan that gets us to that improved state, and then how do we maintain that state. So yeah.
Well, I think we've covered a lot, and thank you, Dr. Kangas, so much.
Yeah,
It's
this
been
has
so
been
great.
so
Both of
fun
you.
and
My
educational.
goodness.
I learned so much from you today.
And don't forget
Such an
Dr.
impactful
Katie's
conversation. Thank you, thank you.
drkatie's.com for the remedies. And if you want to
Yeah.
talk to Dr. Katie in person, you can schedule a consult at her website. It's integrativevet.com,
Yeah,
but INTVET.care.com.
Yeah, because my practice is integrative veterinary care, so we shorten it for.
Yeah.
We don't want to make anyone spell integrative or veterinary.
Right.
Two very commonly misspelled words. That's way too much brain power.
Yeah, we want people to find
yes.
you.
So
Right.
it's int vet care,
IntVetCare.
INTVETcare.com for
.com.
my
Yeah.
my practice site. So
Well, I
thank you.
hope you guys have enjoyed this. I have personally enjoyed
Oh,
it
for
a lot.
sure.
Had a
Yeah, it
great
was
time.
so fun.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you
Likewise.
so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right.
Yeah.
See you guys later.
Thanks for listening, guys. Take
Thank you.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.